अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. Welcome, dear devotees, for the Sunday feast program today. I will begin with the acknowledgements. My first and foremost acknowledgements and grateful thanks are to Srila Prabhupada, who translated the Vedic literature into English language. Without that, I could have never got access to that at all. And to my spiritual master, His Grace Vaisesika Dasa, who has been guiding me very gently and tolerating me and ignoring all the faults that I have for 15 years now. To my Siksha Guru, His Grace Shivas Pandit Prabhu, who taught me to read all these scriptures in a scrutinizing manner. Also to Sri Gopal Das Prabhu, who organizes these events at ISKCON, Silicon Valley, for giving me this opportunity to participate in Krishna Katha today. I'd also like to thank the broadcast team, which is headed by Ramanda Zaka Prabhu and Charunamai Prabhu in the booth today, who are going to be instrumental in carrying this Krishna Katha into every home in the world, actually. It's up to the people to tune or not. And then last but not the least, I'd like to thank my husband, Rakesh Rajput Prabhu, sitting at the back, for being my silent supporter for so many years and for indulging me in anything that I set my mind to. He never complains and is always there to help. So thank you so much for that. So images and texts used here are by the permission of PBT. That's a statutory thing. So the inspiration for today's class came from a Bollywood movie. It was released in 2 parts. Part 1 grossed about $161 million, and Part 2 has already grossed 163. Quiz. What movie is that? Dhurandhar. And I know there's one person in the audience coming straight from a Dhurandhar presentation. So yes, it is Dhurandhar indeed. And so my topic today is going to cover Dhurandhar. And so before we go into that, we need to know what exactly is the meaning of Dhurandhar, right? So Dhurandhar actually is a Sanskrit word, although the movie is set in not so Sanskrit environments, but it's a Sanskrit word. And so Dhur basically means burden, or it also can mean a load, a yoke, or an axle. So the multiple meanings are there. That's true to Sanskrit language. And dhar means to bear, or one who is bearing the yoke or bearing the burden like that, or a holder. So now the rules of Sanskrit, when you combine dhur and dhar, it becomes Dhurandhar. Magically, it becomes Dhurandhar, which is much more musical to hear and musical to pronounce there, right? So the explanation of the word Dhurandhar is that a Dhurandhar is an unparalleled expert, master, leader, or top-grade achiever in fields like scholarship, warfare, or arts, or someone who is preeminent and capable of shouldering great duties silently and steadily. So today's lecture is Seize the Chance and Unleash Your Inner Dhurandhar. So it's not just that Ranbir Singh or Hamza has got the Dhurandhar characteristics. Everyone has got the Dhurandhar characteristics in you, and we'll talk about how there's an opportunity for us to demonstrate that and how we can unleash that inner Dhurandhar here. So let's first look at some of the Dhurandhars from history. I'm not a historical buff. I just put these names together based on my limited knowledge, and I'm pretty sure there are many more names. So first one is Alexander. We all know Alexander the Great. And this is from the before the Common Era, BCE, which is now the more politically correct way of putting that. And so Alexander the Great was in the 1300 BC, that time frame. And at the age of 30, he had almost conquered a large part of Europe and the East. And he even tried coming to India, but then he was not successful. He died at a pretty young age, though. The next one is Julius Caesar. After that, about 100 BCE. And he was from Rome. He established the Roman Empire. And he also, lived for some time, but not too long, right? Then Napoleon Bonaparte was a French, and he was involved in the French Revolution. He was the one who's famous for having crowned himself as the Emperor of France. He took the crown from the Pope and put it on his head by himself. That so much was the eagerness in him. He lost the Battle of Waterloo, and then he was exiled. Some more Dhurandhars close to our home chronologically, coming closer to our time, is Maharana Pratap Singh from India, and he fought the Mughal Emperor Akbar. And we also know about his famous horse. What was the name of his horse? Chetak, right? And beach chokari bhar bhar kar chetak ban gaya nirala tha. So he's always like, the veer ras is there just coming out of his pores. And then, of course, Chhatrapati Shivaji, we all know, who were from the southern part of India. He was also there. And he was the one, actually, who pioneered the guerrilla warfare. And he fought the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb there. Then, continuing on, coming close here to America, we have Nathan Hale. And he was actually a Yale graduate. He was a spy. For those of you who have come from watching Dhurandhar know that. So he was a spy and spying on the British troops who were there in New York. But he was caught. And so that's why we say Bollywood new movies are never true. But he was caught and he was hung at the age of 21. And when he died, his only regret, which he spoke, his only regret was that I had only one life to give to my country. So how noble is that? Then, of course, we have coming closer again, not to leave the women behind, we have Rani Lakshmi Bai, just as she's known of, and she fought the British East India Company in India, who had this doctrine of lapse. And she basically meant that if a king could not produce an offspring, then they would take the whole kingdom. She put up a big fight. She lost the war. She won some and she lost some. And she also died at a very young age. Now looking at the Dhurandhars in Vedic history, because that's what appeals to all of us. That's why we are here. And so we have Arjuna. I don't have to say anything about Arjuna. He had such a big burden on his shoulders as he was commanding the army, and he looks and sees his relatives standing across him. That's a big burden to kill your own relatives. And then, of course, Krishna gives him some sound advice, and then he does that. And we see he was wonderful at archery, and he even put his great-grandfather Bhishma Dev onto the Sharshaya, on the bed of arrows. Then we have Dhruv Maharaj. Dhruv Maharaj had very lofty plans and very lofty goals. He was insulted by his stepmother, and what did he want? He wanted? Anybody can read on the microphone, please? What was Dhruv Maharaj's goal? There is a microphone. Yeah, please.
He wanted a greater kingdom than Brahmaji.
He wanted a greater kingdom than Brahma. So anybody would look at that and say, like, that is insane, because Brahma created the whole universe. How can he get a kingdom better than Brahma's? Right? Impossible, that what one would think. But then he is trained by Narad Muni. And then he puts in all that he had. He had a very austere 6 months when he went to the forest to do devotional service and to meditate on Krishna. And he was barely eating anything. First, just fruits. He gave that up, went to water, gave that up, tried to sustain just on air like that. So, and then, of course, he did get the goal. He got a kingdom better than his grandfather, the kingdom that doesn't perish. He got the Dhruv planet for him. Right? Prahlad Maharaj. The less that we say about Prahlad Maharaj, the better it is. I mean, he had a demon for a father. How do you like that, right? And always out to kill him. And here we see that he is thrown into a snake pit of deadly poisonous snakes. And his burden that he was carrying was the burden of doing devotional service in an environment that was not very conducive for doing devotional service. And then, as you all know the story, that father, on the ultimate thing said that you say that God is everywhere, and so is he here in this pillar? And so he said, yes. And then his father, who was a demon, took his mace and he said, okay, I'm going to kill your Vishnu there, and he took his mace and broke, and he struck the pillar, and from inside the pillar came Nrsimha Dev. And he was so ferocious, he ripped apart Hiranyakashipu. All that is story, a very gory one, competes with Dhurandhar. And but then everybody, all the demigods, everybody who were there were very afraid. Even his own wife, Lakshmi, said that I have not seen my husband in this kind of a situation. We don't know how to pacify him. And then the burden fell on Prahlad Maharaj to pacify. They said, he came for you, so you better take care of him. And then Prahlad Maharaj recites some choicest poetries, which is documented in the Srimad Bhagavatam there. Then, of course, we can't talk about, the Dhurandhars in our Vedic literature and not talk about Abhimanyu, the valiant warrior. He was 16 years old, and he knew the way to get into the phalanx, the Chakravyuh, but he did not know how to get out of it. Any one of us would have said, hey, I don't know how to get out of that. I'm not going there. But he still went there. And to make matters worse, the Kauravas flipped all the rules, and then they all attacked at him simultaneously, which was not the rule those days. You just fought one-on-one at that level. And when his weapons were all dropped, they still started to fire at him, and he took the wheel of his chariot until the last end. When they mercilessly killed him, he was still trying to defend the army, trying to defend the Pandavas. So these Dhurandhars that are there, they go above and beyond the call of duty, above and beyond what one would think as something that you can achieve in the normal circumstances. And we know that our literature is full of them. And Queen Kunti, right? She got married, and the day she got married, her husband had to go for another war. So somebody might think, that itself is cause to lament. But then the husband comes back victorious, and what else does he bring with him from the war? He brings another wife, right? So, but then she tolerates all that, and then we, of course, know the whole story of the Mahabharata, how it unfolds. The Pandavas are sent to the Vanaprastha. Husband dies first, and then the Pandavas have to go to the forest, and she agrees to go there, although she's a queen who's been brought up in opulence. She agrees to go there. She suffers so many things, and in her prayers to Kunti, which are again documented in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, chapter 8, she's glorifying Krishna. She's feeling separation from Krishna, as you can see in the screen there. That Krishna, after Mahabharata is over, Krishna is going back home to Dwarka to be with his family. And she doesn't want him to go because she knows that she's going to miss him. And she starts recounting all the things that Krishna has done for them. And she, whatever good happened to them, like their kingdom was flourishing, and she says that it was flourishing because Krishna has put his foot on the kingdom. And she says that now that you're going to go away, what's going to happen to us? And anything that we know, our name and our fame is all because of you. And then she says that whenever there were any calamities that fell upon us, Krishna, you always came to take care of us. And I want those calamities to come again and again, because that's the only way that I get to see you. So how bold is that? How courageous is that to say that? So that just demonstrates her high level of devotion to Krishna there. So among the ones which are in the Vedic literature, bearing a few from the history, all died young. But from the Vedic literature, what is common among all those we listed? Dhruva, Prahlad, Abhimanyu, Kunti. Say that again. Can you use a microphone? Because those on the internet won't be able to hear you. Devotion, correct, for 500 points. So they are a devotee. And then, of course, in the Vedic literature, we find the one and only Krishna, the ultimate Dhurandhar. And what does he carry? You see over here. So Krishna carries everything, right? He's the basis for everything. He carries everything. As Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he's carrying this entire universe on his navel. As the Karanodakshai Vishnu, all the universes rest in him. And from him they come out. And of course here, on his little pinky finger, he is holding the burden of the Govardhan mountain there, Govardhan hill. And the beauty about the Dhurandhars is that when they are holding something, when they are carrying something, they do not see it as a burden. They do not see it as a burden. For them, it is joy. It is an ecstasy. They derive the joy from doing the impossible. And so Krishna was there, small boy of 5 years old, holding the Govardhan hill on his pinky fingers for 7 days, right? But he was up to his naughtiness again, casting side glances at the gopis. So that's Krishna for us, right? Who can open the mouth and show the whole universe to the mom? That's Krishna and only Krishna, right? And then of course, the fisty fights that he had with Kamsa, the way he killed Kamsa, who was a mighty demon, just at the age of 16, that talks about how powerful he is. There are other Dhurandhars also that are mentioned, actually, in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Duryodhan is observing the armies, and he goes and says to Bhishma Pitama, he says, Atra Shura Maheshvasa, right? Maheshvasa Arsalsa, by the name itself, means it's a Dhurandhar. Bhim Arjun, there is Bhim, there is Arjun, there is Yuyudhan, there is Virat, right? Draupadas Chaiva, right? They are all Maharata. There is Distuketu, there is Chekitana, there is Kashiraj, Kunti Bhoj, Chekitan, all that, Their Shabya is there. So there's so many that I won't be doing any justice by trying to list them, because when I go back home, I'll think that, oh, by the way, I missed that one. So not that, right? So then coming closer, that was 5,000 years ago, now coming closer to 500, we have the 6 Goswamis, and then the 2 prominent that, whom we follow are Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami, who were Shakura Malik and Dabir Khas. And they were wonderful ministers. They knew 9 different languages, and they were managing the affairs of Nawab Hussain of Bengal, so much so that Nawab just couldn't do without them, right? And then later on, when they take to devotional service and follow and join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they excel in that field also, and went on to, document so much of the literature for our benefit. And then the modern day Dhurandhar is our dear Srila Prabhupada. So let's give a round of applause for Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And so, in order to become a Dhurandhar, all these people that we listed are great people, they're Dhurandhars. What is it that is needed to become a Dhurandhar? And the movie Dhurandhar had a tagline. As he was saying, 3 words there. Hosla, they said Eendhan and Badla, right? So Hosla means courage, Eendhan means fuel, and Badla, revenge, was the goal. That's what Jasikrit wanted. And so let's look at Srila Prabhupada in the lines of this and say, Hosla. Did Srila Prabhupada have courage? Yes, with a capital Y, right? So he boarded not a luxury liner, he boarded the Jalduta, which was a merchant ship, which means that it won't have any of the facilities, including the doctors. And he was pestering the owner of the shipping company to give him a spot there. And finally, after many years, the lady relented and said, okay, Swamiji, you can use my husband's cabin. And so he went he came there. And it takes a lot to come alone. And he was of a ripe age. He was not rich. Actually, he was almost, without any, mentionable assets in his life. He was already a sannyasi. So, but he did come. He did come and came to America to preach Krishna consciousness. So he did have. And then when you have this kind of a courage, so courage doesn't stand on its own. Courage will require some fuel. So the fire of courage requires some Eendhan, some fuel to be given. And the fuel that Srila Prabhupada had was Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. His faith in Krishna was the fuel that propelled him. Right? Krishna will definitely protect and definitely deliver. So he had faith in Krishna, And then because of the faith, his second fuel was his surrender to Krishna, the Sharanagati that he did. So in Hari Bhakti Vilas, we have the definition of what exactly is surrender, right? Surrender, there was a war between India and Pakistan when I was growing up, and I heard that India had won the war and the general from there had surrendered. So surrender doesn't mean that you just were losing a war, so you said, okay, I surrender. That was basically to save your life. But surrender is actually sweet surrender. And we will see instances of sweet surrender in the life of Srila Prabhupada. So by definition, surrender here is defined that there are 6 items there. So anukulasya sankalpaha, pratikulasya varjanam, rakshishyati iti vishvasho, goptritve varanam tatha, atma nikshepa karpanya, shadvidha sharanagataha. So there are 6 items there, and we'll go through them. So anukulyasya sankalpa. So what's the meaning of anukulyasya sankalpa? I want somebody to read the meaning of the first one. Anukulyasya sankalpa. Is it readable? I'm sorry, my numbers, I can't read very well from here. Yeah, please go ahead. I think your microphone is not on. If you could switch it on.
Anukulasya sankalpaha, resolve to accept what is favorable to Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. And pratikulyasya varjanam. Continue, or you want to pass on, you can pass it on.
Continue.
Yeah, continue.
Pratikulasya varjanam, resolve to reject what is unfavorable.
And rakshishyati iti vishvaso.
Firm faith that Krishna will protect his surrendered devotee,
right? So you have to accept things which are favorable to Krishna, but that doesn't stop there. The intensity increases. You have to avoid things which are not favorable to Krishna, and that's why we have the 4 regulative principles. And rakshishyati iti vishwas. So that vishwas, that faith should be there that Krishna is going to protect me, right? And then whenever if I reach out to Krishna and if something good happens to me, then that is Krishna that did it. I heard a story of a man who was supposed to go and give a presentation at a company to a customer, and he was getting late, and the customer was launched in a multi-story building, and he had to go and park his car, and they had a parking lot which was like 6 stories high. And so he rushes into the parking lot. First floor, no open spot. Second floor, no open spot. Now he starts to get desperate. And he starts to pray to Krishna. He says, Krishna, if you're going to get me a spot, I promise you, I will chant 16 rounds for the rest of my life. And then lo and behold, 3 meters ahead, he sees a car pull out of the slot. And the man says, don't worry, Krishna, I got it. So you have to, so that's not the mentality that we're looking for, right? We have to understand that Krishna is there for me, and when everything happens to me, it is Krishna's will, it is Krishna working behind the scenes. And when things get out of my control, I have to remember that they are still in control, it's just that they are not in my control. It's in Krishna's control. So when you have that mood, then that is surrender to Krishna. Goptritve varanam yatha, acceptance of Krishna as one's protector. Atma nikshepa karpanya, offering oneself fully, along with the attitude of humility and dependence. So humility and dependence, right? We see dependence. We see the residents of Vrindavan, they were completely dependent on Krishna. And they were so sure about Rakshishyati iti vishvaso. They were so sure that Krishna is going to protect, that we read that in the pastimes of Aghasura, that they say that there is this Aghasura was a python demon with a huge body, and he was lying on the floor, on the ground with his mouth open. And it was such a big mouth that the his lip would go and touch the sky almost, and there was a bad fishy stench coming out of his mouth. And they're just wondering, and they're looking at that, and they're small kids, and they don't understand what this is. And so they are wondering whether, is it some kind of a mountain with a cave inside it, or is it a demon? And then they say, maybe it's a demon, but should we go inside the mouth and explore? And then they say, it's fine, Krishna will take care of it. And Krishna did take care of them because they did go inside, and he turned out to be a demon. Right, so that attitude that, Krishna is going to do that, and have the humility and have the dependence on Krishna. And I really like when I used to go out on book distribution with devotees, the weekend warriors from ISKCON Silicon Valley. We used to go and knock at the door. That's what we did, go house to house, and knock at the door. And before we knocked at the door, I would see the devotee saying, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Let the door open. Let a favorable person come out. Let them listen to our katha. Let them take a book. Constant dependent on Krishna. And as we see that in ISKCON, our book distribution goals have always increased year after year. It did not matter whether it was COVID, when we were completely confined. It was a time of shelter in place. And we did not know because we were used to go door to door, house to house, like that. How are you going to distribute books? And guess what? That year we had phenomenal achievements, right? Because Krishna is behind us. Krishna is there. He sees the desire and ardent desire in our hearts, in the heart of Vaisesika Prabhu. And he helps us. He's there to protect us. So then, Shadvida Saranagata. So these are the 6 elements that contribute the sixfold surrender. So with this, Srila Prabhupada was a fully surrendered soul, completely surrendered to Krishna. He had taken sannyas. Sannyasis just live on Krishna. They don't have any bank balance. They don't have any house. More strict sannyasis cannot even live in a place for more than 3 days, right? And if you read 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna will tell you there that, you don't need a pillow. What do you have You use your arm as a pillow, right? It goes on and on and on, and you look at that. And you will only have a kamandalu, and you will use that when you go to toilet, and you will use that to drink water. How do you do that, right? But that's the life of a sannyasi. And so Prabhupada was a sannyasi. He boarded the Jalduta. And when the ship pulled into Boston, that is where he wrote. So there was Hosla, there was courage, there was dependence, there was fuel that was fueling his courage. And but when he came there, you have to remember, it was a foreign country for him at that age. And he has come to, when I came here to USA 30 years ago, there was so much in common. I was working for Oracle, so I knew most of the USA culture, and I was going to continue to use the product over here, so there was familiarity for me. There was no fear like that. But what was Srila Prabhupada doing? He was not coming here as a software engineer on demand. He was coming here to give the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to the Americans. So that's why this Markine is to the Americans. What is he going to give them? Bhagavad Dharma. So on that Boston Harbor, he writes this poetry, which is in Bengali. But it's a beautiful poetry. And as you go through this, to the words, and you will understand what's going on in Srila Prabhupada's heart and in his mind. And you cannot but admire Srila Prabhupada for what he wrote. So I want some participation here. I also want to drink some water. So if you can circulate the microphone easily to give a chance to everybody to read just the translations, please.
My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me.
So what are some of the words that strike out for you from this? No points if you don't use the microphone. Yes, please. Can you pass the microphone to the gentleman at the back? Quickly, let's see. 3 seconds or less. Thank you, Ramananda Prabhu.
I hear total surrender.
You see, yes, correct. You're seeing surrender.
Of total surrender.
Absolutely, absolutely, right?
Total.
And how does he describe himself?
Useless soul.
Useless. So if he's describing himself as useless, remember by this time he has achieved much. He has on the literary circles, he has already translated Srimad Bhagavatam. At least the 3 books are there, right, with him. But he's calling himself useless. That shows which trait? Humility, right? But I do not know why you have brought me here. He doesn't know why Krishna has brought him here, still he came. Right? So look at that, the level of faith he had. Somehow, I don't know, like how sometimes kids, you tell the kids, okay, let's go. We'll have some fun together. What is the fun? You don't tell them. But they will come with you. Why? Because they have faith. Mom is there, dad is there. We're going to have fun, like that. Next one, please. Who's got the microphone? Yes, please. Yeah.
But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place?
Now, there's a load of information in this prayer. This Prabhupada is saying that, I guess, so that's faith again, that if Krishna is doing it, I have some business here. But then the next sentence says that, otherwise, why would you have brought me into this terrible place? So how is he defining the terrible place? He just reached Boston Harbor. He has not yet gone to the casinos. He's not yet gone to any of those places there, here, right? Or the bars, for that matter. But it is a terrible place, and he's saying, why have you, but I guess you must have some reason. And that is something that we should reflect upon from this prayer Srila Prabhupada has, that when we are in terrible situations in our life, we should be asking that question, that Krishna, there must be some reason why you have brought me into this terrible place. And as Vaisesika Prabhu says in his book, 4 questions asked, he says you should ask the 3rd question, which is, what is the lesson? Pavani Bhakti, 500 points for that. What is the lesson? So he's saying, what is it? And there is, what is it? There's jigyasa there. What is it? What is it, Krishna? And these are his ecstasies. Who's next? Wants to read?
Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it.
Thank you. Yeah, so look at the population, look at the look at the description Prabhupada has written, and look at the goal that he has. So not only are the students unqualified and the subject matter so complex, it's a place totally unknown to him. And he says, I don't even know whether they'll be able to understand it. Now, book distributors here in the audience, do you ever go through this feeling when you're there? How am I going to tell? I'm pretty sure Pavani Bhakti does a lot of that because she catches them when they are young and, not at all exposed to the Vedic culture, and try to bring them from that level, and ultimately they come here to the temple and become devotees of the Lord and take initiations. So for that, we should give a round of applause to her here. Thank you for all that you do for us. Okay, coming up next.
But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you're the most expert mystic.
Yes, so by your causeless mercy. So then there is faith there. Faith that, you're causeless. What is it? Causeless? What? Mercy. So there's Krishna's mercy. So we have to understand, when we say that you are doing this to me because that's your mercy. Otherwise, what do we do in office? We say, I did this, I did this, I did that. I deserve a promotion and I deserve a raise, right? But a devotee never says that. Anything that the Krishna gives to you, whether you deserved it or not, is like, Krishna, that is your mercy. I did not deserve it. You are giving it to me because you are so merciful. Okay?
How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? O Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message.
Thank you. So how will they ever understand the mellows of devotional service? Mellows of devotional service means that you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you take a shower and you want to come to the temple to participate in the Mangalacharan prayers, Mangal Arti here, right? And on festivals, when it is Krishna's birthday, you prefer not to party, but you say that I won't eat anything. And in the previous verse, he said that the people over here are full of rajas and tamas, right? They are the party goers. How are they going to understand? How are they going to understand when I tell them about 4 regulative principles? Remember, it was the time of the hippies in 1965 when Srila Prabhupada came to USA. Okay, continuing on with Markine.
All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion.
Thank you. So then he's saying that these people here in the modes of ignorance and passion, they are there because they are in the clutches of Maya. Right? They are Maya's puppeteers, so to speak. But then he also says that, but they were put there because of your will. So he's in everything that is happening, he's seeing Krishna's will. So even if people are going to party, they have become hippie, or whatever has happened, he's still seeing the will of Krishna in that. And then he also says that your will prevail still, right? To release them from the clutches of illusion. Now what words from Bhagavad Gita kind of conveys this sentiment? That Krishna can release you from the clutches of Maya. Microphone. If you want to get 500 points for that. Let's see, how can the microphone travel with the speed of light? All right, thank you.
So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Devesha gunmahi mamaya durataya mame vahe prapadyante maya metam tarantite.
Correct, right.
That he's the one who will actually take away that Maya.
He will take away the Maya. And how does he describe Maya there?
So,
Mama Maya?
Mama Maya Duratya.
Duratya. Duratya is very difficult to overcome. There. Thank you, Prabhu, for that. 500 points for you. Okay, since you have the mic, would you like to read also?
I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only they be able to understand your message.
Right? So I wish that you may deliver. So look at that. Look at his heart. Not only is Krishna merciful, Prabhupada, being a devotee of Krishna, will get all the characteristics of Krishna, because when you touch an iron rod with fire, the rod gets the characteristics of the fire. So now he's so merciful as well. And he's saying, I wish. He's not saying that I wish I get a place to stay. I wish I get some warm clothes. I wish the Bhagavats gets distributed. No, he's just saying, I wish that you may deliver them. He's praying to Krishna, right? Therefore, if you so desire. Now look at that. It's not a demand. He's just put his petition, but he's saying, Krishna, if you desire, it has to be your desire first. So it's ingrained in Srila Prabhupada completely, in every drop of the blood, that Krishna is the supreme controller. If Krishna doesn't desire anything, not a blade of grass can move. Right? So if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. He's not saying my Srimad Bhagavatam, he's saying your message. And in other episodes, Srila Prabhupada was heard, and he was quoted, he said that, I did not come to America, but the Srimad Bhagavatam brought me here. Because that was his desire, like that. Okay, where is the microphone? 1 or 2? Okay, Makarvinda.
The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message.
So the words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation. So we all know that Srimad Bhagavatam is a Granth avatar of Krishna, right? And so the first 2 cantos are his lotus feet, right? Next 2 cantos become his thigh. 3 and 4, 5 becomes his navel, 6 becomes his chest, 7 and 8 are his arms, 9 is his neck, 10th canto, which is the largest canto with a lot of details in it, because it describes the face of Krishna. 11th canto is the forehead, and the 12th is the crown on Krishna's head. So he's saying that the words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation. You are there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And if a sober person, right, sober, not inebriated, receives it with submissive oral reception. So the key words are submissive. You have to be submissive. Once Srila Prabhupada was teaching Krishna consciousness, and he was teaching a class. And so one student in the class stood up and said, Srila Prabhupada, I cannot believe in what you're saying without a concrete proof. So Srila Prabhupada said, please don't disbelieve it also without a concrete proof. Right? So when we're saying that, this is Srimad Bhagavatam in front of you, then we have to be submissive for us to be able to ingest the Bhagavatam or the philosophy or whatever the message Bhagavatam has got, is saying by submissive reception coming through the ears, right? Shrunvatam swakatha Krishna, it has to come through the ears. Then he will be able to understand your message. Only then. Right? And then he goes on and quotes verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, Divinity and Divine Service, some of the choice verses. And we can all sing them together because you are from ISV and we have been mandated to memorize all these verses. If you didn't memorize them, now is the time to do it. Still, Shrinvatam swakataha Krishnaha punya shravana kirtanaha hridyantaha sohiya bhadrani vidhunoti shruhit satam nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtiki Tadarajastamo bhava kamalobhadayascha ye cheta iterana vidham sitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate bhityate hridaya granthesh Chidyante sarva shamshayaha shiyante chasya karmani trishta evatmanishvare. Translation, somebody from you?
It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desires for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed, and loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
So key words over here, right? That all that is troublesome to the heart is destroyed. Now do Rajas and Tamas, do they trouble your heart? Yes? How much? A lot. Correct, right? And so when this all that is troublesome to the heart, it gets destroyed. Nashta prayeshva bhadeshu, gets destroyed, right? And loving service is established to the Lord. Loving service. Remember, it's not service. We all do service. We complain about it all the time. This is loving service to the Lord. And it gets established as an irrevocable fact. That's a wonderful thing, right? People write revocable wills and this and that, right? But this is an irrevocable fact. Once you got it, it cannot be taken away from you. Like, okay, continuing on with that. Who will help us here? Recite.
At the time loving service is established in the heart, The modes of passion, rajas, and ignorance, tamas, and lust and desires, kama, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in a goodness and he becomes happy. Thus, established in the mode of goodness, the man, rejuvenated by loving service to the Lord, gains liberation from material association, mukti, and comes to know scientifically of the personality of Godhead. Thus, the knots of the heart and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions, karma, is terminated when one sees the self as master.
Thank you so much for that. So this is amazing that you get liberation, mukti, from material matter that is there, and all the knots that are in your heart. So what kind of knots do we have in our hearts? And if you can all move a little further so that we have space for those who are coming in the back. So what are the knots in the heart? Your doctor will not like knots in your heart for sure. What are the knots in the heart? What could be? Give me an example of a knot in the heart. You have to answer on a microphone.
Attachment.
Attachment is a knot, is a very common and a very popular knot that we have, right? Yeah. And all the lust, anger, greed, all these are knots in your heart. Fear is a knot, yeah, right? Disbelief is a knot in the heart, like that. Okay. Then he continues on. So the Bhagavatam verses are over, and he's continuing on with his prayer, Markine Bhagavad Dharma. And the translation is?
He will become liberated from the influence of the mode of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear.
Right? So he's quoting from the scriptures, which is always something that he did. Whether he was teaching the Bhagavad Gita, whether he was writing commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, whatever he was doing, he was always quoting from the scripture. So before he came up with these statements that he'll be liberated from the influence of that, he quotes from the literature, from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is nothing but Krishna's words, right? That's why he was saying, how will I make them understand the words of Krishna? So these verses, he are written in Bengali language, and I didn't want to maul, I don't know Bengali, I didn't want to maul the words. That's why I'm sticking with the translation. Shamlangi Mataji has got altar duty today. Otherwise, I would have, had her sit here and do the Bengali for us. But for some other time, we'll keep it like that. Iko, kikore. Second one. Who's going to read the translation? Thank you.
How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own.
Right, surrender again, right? And it reminds me of the weekend warriors. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Surrender, dependence, vishwas on Krishna. You have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is, for some reason it's bothering me that he keeps putting himself down. Like there's one thing of surrendering and being humble, but there's another thing of being self-deprecating by calling yourself stupid and calling yourself like, I'm the most fallen. But isn't that too negative? Like, why do you have to be so negative about yourself? There has to be some self-respect, right?
When you're standing before Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, those kind of things do not matter. If you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, this humility that Srila Prabhupada showed was in front of Krishna. He's talking to Krishna here in this prayer, right? But in other areas where humility was not to be shown, where he was not supposed to be a doormat, Prabhupada was not a doormat. He was a lion. And he would take the bull by the horn. He would do that. He would do that. But when it comes to Krishna, and as you go deeper and deeper into the Vedic literature, we realize that how sinful we are. When I first came into Krishna consciousness, 15 years ago, through a book, somebody had left a book in my grocery store and I read it. At that time, I was the most tortured person in this world the whole world was torturing me. I do not know what was wrong with everybody. Why were they doing this to me? And then as I started getting in touch with the transcendental literature, the concepts, the philosophies beautifully explained by Srila Prabhupada, I started realizing that the problem was not them. The problem was me. So when you find that the problem is with me, then the humility comes. For example, even as parents, sometimes we scold our kid for doing something like, why did you do that? Or for example, why is this thing out of place? Or why are the scissors on not where they are supposed to be? And you scold your child for that. And the child says, but mom, you had put it there. And they're like, oh yeah. So when we realize that, so don't think there's a difference between self-negation and humility. The definition of humility as Prabhupada defines is when you know that everything that you have got in life is coming through you from Krishna, that is humility. Humility doesn't mean that I'm falling down at everybody's feet like that. When Srila Prabhupada came here to America, right now he's opening his heart. How will I ever teach Bhagavatam to these the people here in America in an alien society? But the same Srila Prabhupada gave them the 4 regulative principles to the hippies and said, no more drinking. He did not say that, okay, come here, I want you to learn, I have this goal, let me compromise. He didn't do that at all. He was like, nope, this is what it is, right? So don't look at that in that manner. And as you go deeper into the ocean of our Vedic literature, the deeper you go into the ocean, the better is the quality of the pearls there. So you will get that. And we can talk more about that after the class. Yeah. But thank you for asking that question. So that's why he's saying that I am seeking your benediction, for I can convince him. So the rules of material world are different from the rules of the spiritual world. In material world, I can be disrespectful to my teacher. I can put my foot on the table and while the teacher is teaching, and I can still pass with 99% of the marks because it's material knowledge. But the spiritual knowledge comes from the descending process. It comes from a higher level to the lower level. And so since it comes from higher to the lower, you have to be at the lower level to catch it. If you try to put yourself above Krishna, then nothing is going to flow from Krishna. Everything flows in the downward direction, which we see here also in real life, right? From higher, it goes to the lower, whether it's electricity or whether it's water, right? Like that. Okay, let's continue.
Okay. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like.
There you go. All right. Continue.
O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding.
So how interesting is that? And he kind of got the nuance of speaking to public, because you should speak the language of the public, right? So he's coming here to America with a heavy Bengali accent. And so he's saying, Krishna, you can do it. You will give me, you'll put the right words in my mouth so that I will speak the right thing at the right moment, like that. Okay, let's continue.
Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I'm sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they'll certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life.
Right? So the purity is very important. And, he's saying that by his mercy, I'll get the purity. And that purity will drive the message of Srimad Bhagavatam to the citizens here. Okay?
Oh Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, oh Lord. Make me dance as you like.
Right. So I'm going to read it with a little bit more punch and energy, because this is the most powerful verse in this whole prayer. It says, oh Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, oh Lord, make me dance as you like. That is the complete surrender. I don't know what's going to happen to me, but you have brought me here. Now make me dance, because you have brought me here for something, right? I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti Vedanta Srila Prabhupada. And now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. What is at the end of the Vedanta? We get Bhakti. You will be able to tell me. And he signed it as the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, in USA on 18th of September 1965, when he had, embarked, the ship had embarked there. And the rest we know is history. I don't have to tell you that. Krishna kept his promise. Kaunteya prati janehi name bhaktya pranashyati. Right? O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So, the viral tagline that we had, Hosla, Eendhan and Badla. Courage, fuel, we saw that for Prabhupada, and Badla, revenge was the goal. Now, Srila Prabhupada didn't come here to America to take revenge, right? The essence here is the three taglines are, goal is the thing that you're looking at. Now, somebody might have a goal, and we can even say that Prabhupada came here to take revenge on Maya that keeps on giving trouble to people, right? So our tagline, right? Our tagline, because we are not copycats in 100% of the way, but we are going to call it as in Sanskrit, Sahasam. Everybody says Sahasam. Eendhanam. Lakshyam. And what do they mean? Sahasam? Come on. Eendhanam. Lakshyam. All right, good. So, Sahasam, did Srila Prabhupada have Sahasam? Did he have courage? At the age of 69, he carried only rupees 40, which was about $8 in that time. A bag of dry wheat cereal, suji for the halwa, an umbrella, a blanket, and a few clothes, and a trunk of Srimad Bhagavatam books, the first edition that he had published. When I came to America, I had pressure cooker, I had plates, I had money. I was still trying to see how I could smuggle some US dollars into India beyond the limit that was legally allowed. All that kind of stuff. Like shoes, no shoes. I was coming to Minnesota. So Lakshyam, what was Srila Prabhupada's goal, right? So Srila Prabhupada's primary goal in coming to USA was to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. And that was to spread Krishna consciousness amongst the English-speaking population, particularly the Western world. And it's very important for you to have a goal because, as it says in Alice in Wonderland, that if you don't know where you are going, any road is going to take you there. That, right? It's something to think about. So Eendhanam, fuel, right? Fuel, he had the enthusiasm. He had spent his whole life in preparation for that, right? It didn't happen straight away. His spiritual master told him it didn't happen. He waited his whole life enthusiastically for that, right? He had faith in Krishna. He had surrendered into Krishna. And then, of course, there was his devotional service. And in the Nectar of Instruction, there is a very powerful statement in the purport. Srila Prabhupada writes that devotional service is so pure. It is so pure that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. Now, did we see that or not in the life of Srila Prabhupada? There you go. So, devotional service, the purity of your heart, that is of extreme importance for success. Now, what exactly is success? That a movie grossed $161 million or made 165 in the first 1 week? What exactly is it? Or I have a 10 crore car as a result of that? What exactly is success? That is something that we have to think about. We have to ponder. We don't see, we think that this is success or that is success. If I have a Tesla, that is success. I just heard somebody speak this. My husband, shared that clip with me. And it really struck me. It was a blind person. He was given an award in a special category. And he was saying, I'm not in the special category. Don't call me blind. And he gave this thing. He said, 0.5% of the population are blind. The rest of them cannot see. How true is that? Paschyan api na paschyati. Dekh karke bhi nahi dekhna. Right? So what do you not see? Look at this. This is negative in experience index. So Gallup's negative experience index of, it is on a 0 to 100 scale. It hit the records in the year 2020 to 2021, right? The COVID time. It was at 30 to 33, which is, the index is, what does it measure? It measures sadness, worry, stress, anger. And this survey was conducted across 140 countries. It became slightly better by the year 2024. I don't know what's going to happen now, okay? And the World Health Organization, it claims that 1 in 8 people, what percentage is that, 12.5%. 1 in 8 people have mental disorders like anxiety and depression. So that if you take the world population, that's about 1 billion people. Don't we care for the 1 billion? We do, because sharing is caring. And that's what Prabhupada did. How do we take care? So we should do an attack on negativity. And coincidentally, Apara Gorangi shared an article with me yesterday, and I was looking at that and I said, this is exactly what I needed. Let me share with the devotees tomorrow in the class. And it says that according to Dr. David Hawkins, who's a medical practitioner, he said that one individual, if he is vibrating at high energy level of pure love, one person can counterbalance the negativity coming from how many? 750,000 individuals. The Srimad Bhagavatam helps us to understand that love of God, which includes not only loving Krishna, but also loving Lord's innumerable entities, whether they are human beings or an ant or a plant or a tree or a fish. That is the most perfect goal of human life. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, that's why we should distribute it. And that is going to be our weapon of mass destruction in our war against Maya or illusion. Right? So we have the weekend warriors. We had the weekend warriors, and then they became weekday warriors. And one of them is sitting over here. They do that all the time. They are on a war path. They are there against Maya, right? So why should I distribute Srimad Bhagavatam? This for the re-spiritualization, Prabhupada says, of the misdirected population. They're misdirected. They don't know. Paschan api na paschati. They cannot see. They don't know that the ultimate goal of life is prema pumarto mahan, pure devotional service to the Lord. Right? And so what Srila Prabhupada has given us, the ISKCON, is actually Prabhupada's gift to us. And he created ISKCON, and he described 7 purposes of ISKCON. The first purpose of ISKCON was to propagate spiritual knowledge. That's the first purpose of ISKCON. Then second is to propagate Krishna consciousness, in the spiritual knowledge. And then the third was to bring the members together. So that's why he created a society. And nearer not only to each other, but also closer to Krishna. Then second one was to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movements. Fifth was to build temples. Sixth one was to bring again people together so that they could teach. And the 7th one is the most important one and the all-encompassing one, which says, publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings to achieve the above 6 purposes. Right? So that is why you should distribute books. That is why you should distribute books. So who do you think is dear to Krishna after having gone through this? Right? So Dhurandhar, we said, is an unparalleled expert, master, leader, or a top great achiever. Someone preeminent and capable of shouldering great duties, and he does that silently and steadily. Srila Prabhupada, our undisputed Dhurandhar. Srila Prabhupada ki. So let's carry forth this legacy, this gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So with that in mind, we have a global target leading up to Bhadra Purnima, which is on September 26th this year, to distribute 100,008 Srimad Bhagavatam set all over the world. And target for ISKCON is a whopping 7,301 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. Does that excite you? Yes or yes? Yes. That was a very low-key yes. Yeah, that's how it should be, right? So, Dhurandhar, that is Dhurandhar. Dhur also means a load. Take somebody who takes the load. So let's see what is the load on us. The load of 7,003 Srimad Bhagavatam is 160,622 kilograms or 97 Tesla cars. Right? So that's the load we have. Which means that we should be distributing at least 50 Bhagavatam sets a day on an average. So you will need sahasam. You have the blessings of the parampara. Book distributors are Krishna's favorite. Go do it. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, for one who explains this supreme secret to devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. What is guaranteed in these days? Nothing. Right? And he says, there is no servant in this world more dear to me, nor will ever be anyone more dear. Right? You want to become Krishna's dear? Yes or yes? Right? So bring out the Dhurandhar in you. Each one of you has a Dhurandhar. Get him out. You need a lakshyam. Thanks to Vaisesika Prabhu, he gave us the lakshyam. He gave us the goal. And if you're saying like 7,000 Srimad Bhagavatam sets and still counting, 50 Bhagavatam sets a day, impossible. Napoleon Bonaparte said, impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary. And Srila Prabhupada also quoted that when he was on a morning walk, when one of the devotees said, trying to print so many books is impossible, probably referring to Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was printed in a whopping 1 month time. Impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary, remember that. As Vaisesika Prabhu says, assume that it can be done. And then from that pedestal, you move forwards. Eendhanam, you will need Eendhanam, right? You will need some fuel to take you forward. Of course, we talked about some of the fuel that Prabhupada had. And then this fuel, fuel is the one that perseveres you throughout your journey towards your goal, right? It gives sahasam, the fuel of perfect bhakti. Give that. Give your courage the fuel of perfect bhakti. And how does your bhakti become perfect? Your bhakti becomes perfect when you do seva. And so that is the opportunity that you have to bring out the Dhurandhar in you. And for your sahasam to continue with the fuel, one of the fuel there is utsahan, enthusiasm. The word enthusiasm comes from Greek, and it is enthu and entheos. En means inside, and theos means God. So it is God who is inside. So enthusiasm is actually Krishna nudging you from inside. Right? And enthusiasm is something that is instrumental in the progress in devotional service. And whatever you do, remember, distributing Srimad Bhagavatam sets is also devotional service. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you can answer them in yes or yes. Okay? So does any of the following enthuse you? Yes, good. You learn fast. Chad Plus, which is reciting a chapter of Bhagavatam every day. Be a sage page by page, an application. You can help us develop, fix bugs, etc. on that, or add more features to it, which tracks and helps you set goals and read Srila Prabhupada's books. Give online classes or attend online classes, in-person classes at ISV, as you're doing now. Bhakti Vrikshas, which is discussing Krishna in people's home, and Bhakti Vaibhav, attending structured courses, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, and beyond whatnot. Remember, all leaders are readers first. Okay. Does that enthuse you? Yes. Okay. Eendhanam, continuing on, frontline devotional service. Book distribution, outreach, representing ISKCON at your company, especially corporation. If you are interested in that, please meet me. after the class, fundraising, sponsorship support. KTTVG, what is that? Loudly. Keep the transcendental vibration going, which means Krishna Katha, Krishna Katha, Krishna Katha, and bhajans and kirtans. Storytelling, do you like telling a story? Do you like narrating Srimad Bhagavatam? Bhakti Yoga, facilitation, you want to have classes, you want to have workshop. Is that something that enthuses you? Okay. Cooking, cleaning, presenting, seminars, talks, demos, volunteer coordination, event planning, prayers, japa, sadhana, coordination. Is that something that would enthuse you? Yes. All right. Strategizing, forecasting under the leadership and strategy category. Strategizing, forecasting, work, general project work, fund allocation and budget supports, building relationships with the donors. Is that an area that will appeal to you? Yes. All right. And then marketing, content creation, flyers, pictures, artwork, social media management, translation or transcription, lead generation. Is that something? Any marketing people here in the audience? There we go, Vrinda Sevika. She's enthused by that. Book packing, driving in a car, bring out your Tesla, put some Bhagavatams, just drive them around. Bookkeeping, data entry, and tracking. Does that? Yes. So if you answered a yes or a yes to my questions, then consider yourself recruited into Srila Prabhupada's army that's going to wage a war against Maya. So I'm going to stop over here and take your reflections or questions for the next 10 minutes before the Aarti starts here. Any word that struck your mind? Reflections are more welcome than questions, but keep them coming.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I really like the Dhurandhar concept, the whole through the lecture. And one thing you asked was, what was common in all the Dhurandhars you have showed in your presentation, and it's devotion to Krishna. And I was also thinking, they are fearless. They are out there in the front fighting, whether it's for the sake of satisfying Krishna or their gurus. And also at the same time, they are humble. Like Arjuna, he's so humble that he in Bhagavad Gita we can see Krishna like, without you I can't be anything. Even Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. So the more advanced you are, the more humble you are. It doesn't mean that you are, some scared person or, you can't achieve anything. But you can also do bold things. Like Srila Prabhupada disciples who went to UK to start the movement there without anything, just because they want to satisfy Srila Prabhupada and whatever he desired. So that's something I want to share.
Yeah, thank you so much. And actually, in the movie Dhurandhar, there are so many things that we can draw parallel with, and I was focusing more on Srila Prabhupada. There's a song there, Aandhi ban ke aaya hoon. And when you read about Srila Prabhupada, as his journey on the Jaladuta coming over the Atlantic, which is a very ferocious ocean, known for, toppling the ships. And but Krishna was there for him, and he says that the captain of the ship later commented, and he said that this was the first ever time that they passed the entire Atlantic Ocean without any, waves coming down the funnel for them. And so I was like, oh, so no storms. But then, looking at the analogy of storms, then Srila Prabhupada came to USA. There were some problems for him in the beginning. But then once he settled, he got some, people here to help him. Also, ISKCON was formed. And then he circumambulated the entire globe till the age of 83. He came here at 69. And till the age of 83, when he left this mortal planet, he circumambulated this globe for about 12 or 14 times. And everywhere that he went, he came like a hurricane. And I was like, Andhi ban ke aaya hu. That's Srila Prabhupada. That's a Dhurandhar. And then in the Dhurandhar movie, okay, anyway, those who haven't watched it, I don't want to give it away, but there's a point when the Hosla, it gets a little bit diluted because he has lost his beloved and things like that. So he says, you know, Andhi man ka aaya hu, mera Hosla bhi ayyash hai. But Hosla ayyash means your courage is now waylaid. But that was not the case with Srila Prabhupada. Despite everything that happened to him, right, non-supportive wife, everything, he continued on with his desire to do service to his spiritual master. And then, so then they show this hero in a very sad position. I mean, he's still doing his work, but his heart is not there. The heart is out of it. And then they say, na to karma ki talash hai, na hum safar ki talash hai. You know, I don't want to join a karma. I don't want a life mate. And I look at our brahmacharis, you know, out there, you know, they don't want a humsafar, they don't want a caravan. If they want to go alone on book distribution, they will go out alone on a book distribution. They will do it. So there's so many parallels to that. That's why I was so enthused. Otherwise, I rarely talk about Bollywood in my classes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was really impressed. This is a real sign of advancement when you see material things and you can connect to Krishna. How you connected this whole movie. You almost like researched so much and masterminded this class and took us finally to the point of giving Krishna to everyone. And you explained, you literally gave us all the possible opportunities. Somebody would click with something and they would volunteer to serve for Krishna and join Prabhupada's army. I really liked how you took all of these things and converted them to pure Krishna consciousness. That's a real sign of advancement. To me personally, what really inspired me in each of these statements that Prabhupada prayed in Jaladuta, he showed utter humility and so much full dependence on Krishna. And that's the mood you personally are. I know you do all these services, which is with complete faith. And that's a lesson I'm taking from today's session, that how we should live our life with complete dependence on Krishna. And not think that we are great, but just depend everything on Krishna. And he will do the miracles, how he did the miracle in Prabhupada's life. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. And I see Hansapriya Mataji sitting at the back. And in honor of her mom, I'm going to quote some lines from a song that was her favorite. Mera aapki kripa se har kaam ho raha hai, karta nahi main kuch bhi, mera naam ho raha hai. That says that, you know, everything that happens, even this PowerPoint presentation, even the idea to connect Dhurandhar with this presentation comes from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. And once we realize that, and I just can't even express my gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for bringing me out of the rut where I was and bringing me to this level by exposing me to concepts of Krishna consciousness, exposing me to the wonderful devotee, exposing me to a wonderful spiritual master who has brought me to this level of understanding and who continues to guide me. Mukharvinda, who lived with us for some time, he knows that before every presentation, I panic a lot and I have no idea what to talk about. So these are inspirations that come from Krishna. So they are not mine. Yeah. So we have, okay, you have one more, maybe one more. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock. You have to do the mantra for the mic to work.
Hare Krishna Mataji, what a wonderful class. I was the person who came directly from the theater to the class. and I didn't know the meaning of Dhurandhar. So thank you for sharing that. I have one reflection to share. So what I've learned here in ISV is, from a lot of devotees is, you take one step and Krishna takes 10 steps to help you. So, and I've seen this in my, association with the devotees here, starting from you, how much time you invest in all the devotees, just grooming them in the culture and, helping them in whatever possible ways. So the parallel I was just trying to draw in the movie also, the character is, once he's decided how much support he gets, knowingly, unknowingly, and the parallel that we have in the Krishna consciousness, culture. So that's what I was just reflecting on. Thank you.
Thank you
for sharing.
Thank you for that. And but what you have to see about Preeti is that who comes from a movie directly to attend a class? Right. So it shows that you might go to a movie, I heard about it and all that, but ultimately you finally come to rest at the temple. You come here. And although she has spoken so many words glorifying, but Preeti, she is Dhurandhar at her company where she works. When the time comes for us to generate funds, 7,000 Srimad Bhagavatam sets is going to cost us $2 million. And Preeti is going to get it for us through our corporate program. So thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for your patient listening. We'll have to stop here because we're going to go to the next phase, which is even better. You can dance like a Dhurandhar today. Yeah? Okay. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha gaur premanande hari hari bol.
Shraddha Mataji ki jai, Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.